Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk about the year as it ends. I think that as we travel around the country, my assessment of the year is that it has been a miserable failure. Miserable in the sense that every government is elected into office on a premise of delivering on commitments and promises, sacred commitments and promises made to the electorate. At the turn of 2008 into 2009, there was a sense of abounding hope and prosperity, that the nation was on a certain track that could only go forward. Within months of a change in administration, everything seems to be falling apart, the center not holding, and it created a sense of despair across the nation. And as I have traveled around this nation for the past year, all I see is a sense of gloom, angst, and anguish. People do not have the same upbeat mood. People are fearful of the next day for what it brings or may not bring. And therefore, I find it depressing. At the end of the day, the purpose of government is the upliftment of its society.
Yes.
I think that people of this country feel that the opposite is the case. We in the MPP believe that it is on the basis of truth that one must seek political power.
And
it is on the basis
of truth. What you tell the people is something that you intend to do.
Because promises made are sacred. Sacred because they are based on trust, the exchange of trust. Now, as I travel the country, my sense is that the people of this country are not sure they have a government, much less a government that cares about the welfare of its citizens. And this failure is born out of the fact that Professor Mills and the NDC were not truthful to the people of this country. Hence, the abysmal and cataclysmic failures that we begin to see in all sectors of our society.
You raise a very interesting situation there. One, were they overcome by promises based on falsehood, which they realized they couldn't fulfill, or essentially they lacked the competence to access and deliver?
The two are not mutually exclusive. First of all, in retrospect, the NDC and Professor Mills took a certain moral laxity in promising things they knew they couldn't do, things they knew were not possible.
There was that element of it.
There was that element of deceit.
Yes.
That is why it is possible for high functionaries of NDC to loudly proclaim that manifesto promises are not binding. A promise is predicated on the exchange of trust for delivery. And once a trust is betrayed, you've betrayed a sacred bond between the one promising and the one promised. And it takes a deceitful element to know that it is not possible for me to do what I'm saying, but for the sake of power, I will. So we went through a sequence. I mean, you go around the country, and it has become a familiar refrain. He said he will reduce petrol drastically. He's increased it drastically. He said he will bring down electricity prices. Electricity prices are soaring. Taxes. The previous budget had 7 major elements of new taxes, not increases in taxes, new ones. Even this one is worse. I'm still studying the tax implications of the new budget, and at the appropriate time, we will lay it bare to the people of Ghana. But the point I'm making that it is abundantly clear that the NDC, for the sake of political power, did not restrain itself from moral laxity and promise something it knew it could not deliver. Now it becomes suicidal when you compound the element of deceit with the element of incompetence. It becomes suicidal. Look, you can sometimes lie your way through a situation, and given time, you can deliver. Because you can rearrange the constellation of economic and political forces in such manner that it creates new possibilities for you.
It creates room to operate.
Yes. Here we are. You've lied through your teeth into power. You are hopelessly incompetent in delivering what you said. You see, why did the economy tank suddenly? Remember, Kwesi Pratt and the others were on Peace FM. The economy has passed.
Yes.
They didn't understand what they were talking about, because every economy is predicated on trust and the ability to deliver. Those are the twins of forward movement. So if you yourself are declaring your economy, your national economy, hopeless, in spite of the fact that you filed a different report to the IMF and the World Bank under Article 4 consultation, if you yourself indicate that you don't have faith in your own economy, foreigners who have invested in your economy should not show any faith.
They'll pull out.
They'll pull out. More so, when you begin to exhibit in the early phases such crass incompetence at managing even the fundamentals. The two combined is what has brought us to this sad position, happily.
So in essence,
it's coming to an end.
Two things happened post 08 and early 09, right through the year, that the international community were given a different sense of the state of the economy, and then public advocacy locally was in the opposite direction.
Certainly.
Trying to lay blame on the previous administration and try to use the administration.
You know, I always go back to the balance of payment reports. At the end of the Kufuor era, his government paid an oil bill of $2.4 billion. At the end of the second 18 months of the Mills administration, they had only paid 886 million, not even a billion. Yet they could not manage the supply chain of crude and gas.
No, they couldn't.
And you ask yourself, you have a latitude of 1.2 billion in terms of savings, opportunity cost savings. Yet, you are not even importing the same quantities of crude. The foreign exchange regime has moved in your favor. The terms of trade in terms of prices of primary commodities has moved in your favor. Yet, you are not able to manage. That was the first signal to the nation and to the rest of the world that these people could not handle it. You see, those of us in the economics and banking field usually look at certain indices as your indicator to forward progress. We look at your major items on your expenditure and revenue side of your balance sheet. In the national sense, your balance of payments.
That's right.
We look at the big ticket items and how you are juggling with the big ticket items. In the Ghana situation, your big ticket items were on the foreign exchange side, tradable side, was your energy sector, crude oil imports. On the domestic side, you were looking at items 1 through 4 on your national budget, wages and salaries.
Yes.
So everybody is looking at how you are managing those big ticket items to determine your competence.
So
Didn't work.
it didn't work.
It showed early that they had no clue what they were.
He raised the question of how government had managed itself in the area of salaries and wages. With all the revenue coming in, new revenue from new taxes, heightened revenues from old value goods like cocoa and other things, we still were not able to pay our salaries. Single spine implementation went bust. What happened?
Well, I think a number of things happened. Promising things out of sequence. By promising things out of sequence, you did not gauge clearly what your inflows were going to be. See, in economics, you make projections. Those projections ain't necessarily true. True in the sense that they may not materialize. Therefore, if you make firm commitments on the right side of your balance sheet, and the left side of the balance sheet doesn't materialize, you run into deficits and you run into problems. You know, I think that first and foremost, the negotiations with labor, organized labor, was not transparent, was not in good faith, and therefore, within a short time, organized labor came to a conclusion, rightly or wrongly, that they had been bamboozled, right? And that the worst thing you can do to any living creature is to make them feel cheated or that they are fools.
That's why the teachers went on strike.
And you see, it made people feel that they had been deliberately misled with the facts as they were. I don't think also that this government clearly